All right, and good morning. So let's talk about the picture from the southern colonies. So look at the painting that we see here on the page. The painting is, I'm going to blow it up so we can really kind of see it. The painting that we have here is a picture of agriculture or people growing crops. So take a look at what you can see here in the picture. I can see that there is fields of crops being grown. I can see that there are some men who are sort of dressed in lesser clothing. Presumably, I would say those are slaves, people who are working or workers who are tilling the crops and tending to them. I'm seeing a man on a horse. He's kind of dressed more fancy, more elegantly with he's got a hat on. He's got, he's clearly a man who is not working. He's sort of managing people. You can see he's got some crops on the back of the horse here. You can see there's a man overseeing the sort of what's happening, the daily activity. So I can see that, this is the South. This is, there's the town, they're growing these crops and it's right part of the town. It's not sort of on the outskirts, these big farms that are away from everything. These crops are being grown right in the middle of, there's what I would say a church, all these other buildings where people are about. You can see people walking in the background. So if I look at today's main idea for the southern colonies, or for this painting from the southern colonies, I would say that growing crops or agriculture was a central part of lives in the South. So what we know about the southern colonies is that they relied heavily on agriculture. They farmed, and they did a lot with cotton, and they did a lot with tobacco. Those were the two crops that they found could grow really well in the southern environment. It was a huge part of their economy, meaning how they made money. They traded with, and they sent cotton and tobacco back on ships to England, and they also used slaves in this time frame as well. We know that in the South there was a large influx of Black men and women to come in and do the labor, and sort of that slavery trade began. So if I were to look at this, that's what we know from our research in the last few weeks. If I look at this painting and it says that agriculture was part of their lives. So walking through this, I see that we're part of a town. I see that these men are actually, there's a couple of men here that are sort of supervising. There are men that are working. There are men here that are sort of dressed more formally. They're definitely not the same as workers, but they're doing something to check. Maybe they're checking the field to see if something's growing right. But this is clearly everyday life. This scene shows that this is what their life is like. It's not a one day change or something's going completely different than their everyday lives. So looking at three ideas of how you could support that this was part of their lives. Look at where it is built, where the farming is happening in relation to the town. Look at the men who are there for slaves that are working it. Look at the men that are, there's a structure here, right in the middle of the farming. If that doesn't say anything to you, then, and that screams, hey, look, here's a farming field and there's a building, a person who's, living there in the middle of this farm, in the middle of this crop field. This man is definitely using this horse. He's got the crops on there. there's lots of good details here that you can pick out. Find one or two the very small details and put them here on the next page, making sure that if you're looking at this, oops, I need to change this for you. But make sure that you look at your video, this video, before you do the work and you take a look at it. I'm looking for the details that support that growing crops was a central part of their lives. And you're looking at the picture, not the information you have from our research, but specifically the picture to say what things in that picture can you mention or use to support that idea. All right, if you have questions, reach out. Mrs. Kerrigan and I are here